doing well, and I hope you're having a wonderful summer. I literally cannot believe that it's the end of June. We are halfway through the year. I know I'm not the only one that thinks time is flying, right? It just feels like I blink and then 6 months later, here we are. So today I want to talk to you about why talk therapy may be keeping you stuck. But first, I want to answer a question that I received about self-care that I think you will resonate with. So this particular question is from someone who joined my mindset challenge. She said, I watched part of the mindset challenge, but I couldn't answer the first day, which is to define what self-care means to me. I think I grew up in an achievement-oriented environment, so to me, self-care is achieving academic and career goals. So I want to validate how common that is. Like super, super common to just be totally focused on academic or career goals or the achievement of some sort, whether it's opening your own business or anything like that. So I can't answer this question for you. I don't know what self-care is for you, but what I can do is point you back into your internal experience. So every single day, if you're human, I always say that, you are, I hope, you have emotions that pop up and you have intuition that comes up for you. Some people are really in tune with their intuition and other people are not. Some people are in the middle. But when we are born, when we are kids, we are highly intuitive. And over time, I'm not going to get into all of the details today about why this happens, but over time, many people in my community, and this was true for me, disconnect from their intuition and they stop trusting that intuition and sometimes even stop noticing that guidance. So one way that I found that's helpful to tune back into what is my intuition here is that there are little quiet sweeps that go across your mind every single day. And if you start just noticing them and holding on to them and following that guidance, you'll notice over time that that intuitive voice gets louder and easier to hear. And you'll also grow the skill of differentiating, is this fear or is this intuition? And I can absolutely guide you there, but I just wanted to give you that quick tool to use, these little sweeps that pass by your mind. Start noticing them. So how the heck is this relevant for self-care if you're sitting there wondering and not connecting the dots? The reason is because you have an internal experience that is begging you for certain things. And you are the only one that knows, do I honor those things? Whether it's, am I using my emotions as data and actually taking steps to honor that? Or am I just telling myself, if, for instance, if I feel overwhelmed, am I telling myself, are you telling yourself, well, I just shouldn't feel overwhelmed and just continuing to power through? So for instance, if you're having an internal experience in the name of self-care, if you're having this experience where you're like, oh, I just want a day off. I just want some time to myself. I just want to rest. Do you honor that? And what do I mean by honor? Like, truly listen and take action in alignment with what your internal experience is begging you for. So to sum this up in one sentence, tune in more to your emotions, tune in more to your intuition, and start honoring that as a way of self-care. That's how I like to think about self-care. So prioritizing what you truly want rather than listening to some voice that you don't matter or you come last or that you should feel guilty if you do that. Okay, that's enough there. I could go on and on and on. And if you have questions about that, I'm happy to elaborate on any of that. So now let's circle back to why talk therapy may be keeping you stuck. Before I dive into this a bit more, what I want to do is caveat by saying there are a number of different types of therapy, there are different types of counseling, different approaches, methodology, and I'm specifically referring to talk therapy. And I want to note that also not all therapists are created equal, just as not all coaches are created equal. And just in case you don't know, I am a psychologist, not a therapist, and a coach, as well as a licensed human element practitioner, a brain-based coach, I should have said that. So, all the caveats aside, everything that I'm going to share with you today is purely feedback from my one-on-one clients who have seen multiple talk therapists prior to working with me. And their experience also rings true for me from what my experience was with talk therapy, meaning I've been to several therapists in the past and the approach was quote unquote talk therapy, and the things that I hear from my clients are in line with what my experience was. I didn't personally find it helpful very much at all. So, why am I diving into this today? Well, it was on my heart because over the last couple weeks, I've had numerous individuals say something along the lines of, well, with therapy, I always leave feeling like I need to get a new therapist, or maybe somebody that has better ideas, or maybe I just need a therapist that's a better match for me, a better fit for me, something along those lines. I've also heard people recently share with me, well, I've been in therapy 8 years, but I'm still struggling in this way. And so I just want you to pause right now and think about, have I ever felt this way? Ask yourself that. Have you ever felt like you needed to, quote unquote, shop around for a therapist, and that maybe in and of itself felt overwhelming? Maybe you avoided doing it because you didn't want that, like shopping around and having to go in an hour and tell all your personal history and then walk away not feeling like anything was different. You know, maybe you've avoided therapy altogether because you've heard others share this. Just think, have I felt this way? Is this ringing a bell for me? And this is probably particularly true if you've been going to therapy at least a few months and you don't feel at least 10, 20% better, whether that is calmer, less anxious, or happier, less angry, then maybe this is going to be relevant for you. So keep listening no matter what your answer was to that. And if you do resonate with what I'm saying so far, I just want you to know that you are not alone and that there is a better and more effective approach. So today, what I'll do is I'll share 4 differences between talk therapy and Brave Method coaching with me, as specifically stated by my current clients and my former clients. And I think that this first quote that I'm going to share, I'm going to pull up a sheet of paper here. This first quote that I'm going to share is a good recap overall. So what she said is, I feel like you're breaking ground with this evolutionary way of working with women, and I'll admit there's a hesitancy to believe it and even believe that it's possible. And there's it's too good to be true mentality that stops women from coming to you for help. But this is just the initial ripple in a massive tidal wave movement that your business could potentially create. I feel like we're stuck in the method that we accept as quote unquote treatments, like therapy and counseling, but your approach is next level. So I'm going to keep diving into these 4 differences that I've heard from clients. So I've heard clients share that when they went to talk therapy, it felt very externally focused. So one quote from a former client is, well, they gave me a list of techniques to try to put in place for the next time that I felt stressed or angry. They also gave me tasks like adding self-care. And of course, it helped me talk through some things, but it never addressed the root cause. And each and every session made it feel like a lot more that I had to remember to do on a daily basis. Versus The Brave Method approach is you help me stop looking for external reasons why I was getting angry or overly stressed. You showed me how I was the only one who could decide how things made me feel, and it all came back to me. So that's a quote, and I'm going to interject here. I want to differentiate between what my clients and former clients have said and what I'm saying. Imagine how empowered you would feel to know it all came back to me. It all comes back to me, and I am in control. I am in control of the results that I get. I am in control of the outcomes I get. I'm in control of my success. I have the power to feel any way that I want to. And that's not like, oh, let's do this, toxic positivity business. Absolutely not. That's not what we do here, but you have control. Okay, going back into the quote. You made the fix simple. You took me by the hand, showed me the mirror, and helped me see clear as day, exactly where the tweaking needed to happen. So imagine, again, that's end quote, and this is me interjecting. In case you're listening and can't see me reading the paper, I just want to be really clear. So imagine what it would feel to have your hand held and to be shown the exact steps you need to take, and not having all this confusion and uncertainty and is this going to work for me piled on. Okay, so let's see. This is, instead of being externally focused like talk therapy, the Brave Method is internally focused. So let's hear two more opinions, case studies from past and current clients. The internal reflection as well as the inner work resulted in life-changing revelations. I don't think change is hard anymore. I'm going to interject again. Imagine what it would feel like to not think change is hard anymore. How many times have you said it's so hard to change? Like, I can't change myself. This is just the way that I am. This is a question that I really want you to think about, because most people I've encountered in this world, in this community, perceive change as difficult, and it is not. If I changed your life by handing you $1 million, would you think it was difficult? Absolutely not. You wouldn't think, probably. I mean, maybe there's one naysayer out there that'll be like, I would think it was difficult. Okay, I'm not talking to you. Most people would not think that it was difficult to change if they were to change their life if they were handed $1 million. So it's not change that we fear, it's loss that we fear. And what if you had someone to guide you through that fear of loss and show you there's nothing to fear, and actually how to perceive the world in that way? Okay, going back to the case studies from clients. You allowed me to have those light bulb moments very effortlessly. Instead of turning outward to try to assign blame and try to reason through what other people had done to hurt me or stress me out, you redirected me inward to help me understand why I was feeling that way. You made it easy to begin to catch myself in the act of defensiveness. And I know I've talked a little bit about defensiveness on this podcast, and I'll talk about it more as we go. But defensiveness is something that literally every person feels and behaves this way essentially every day. If you are human, you are defensive. So if you had this thought of like, oh, well, I'm not defensive, you are, I promise. And that's a beautiful place where we can increase your awareness and increase how you're showing up in the world and help you overcome everything that's holding you back. Okay, so the first one, just to reiterate, is that talk therapy tends to be externally focused and the Brave Method approach is internally focused. Now we're going to go to the second difference according to my past and current clients, and that is that talk therapy tends to be complex and slow versus quick and effective and efficient with the Brave Method. So this there's a few quotes that I have here. One is that, I spend hours and hours of talking through things with lots of techniques and extra things to do, which felt heavy. You, Steph, put the mirror up, pointed out the obvious that we are initially oblivious to. And here's another quote. Dr. Steph has changed my life and mindset more in years of therapy, numerous books or courses could in years. I talk about what's bothering me. They listen, they affirm, they ask questions in talk therapy. But often at the end of the sessions, I would feel good about myself, but would struggle with okay, I still have these difficulties in my relationships. Versus with the Brave Method, according to my clients, Steph is an impeccable listener. She doesn't just nod and affirm. She coaches you through to get better outcomes in your life and your relationships. And she gives you space to practice her techniques. She gives homework and checks in during the week. So how amazing would it feel to be supported in that way consistently throughout the week versus having to wait weeks, days between sessions? So now I'm going to move on to the third thing that my clients pointed out that's different between talk therapy and the Brave Method, and that is long wait times versus immediate help. So with your coaching, the process and recovery time is so much faster than therapy sessions. With therapy, I found myself waiting for next week's session to try to make sense of things that were happening in my lives. And even if I tried to journal in between about things, I had no resolution for them. With you and one-on-one coaching with you, I just pick up the phone, send you a text or a voice note as soon as anything happened, and I'd get a quick response that allowed me to work through things immediately and move on more quickly as well. What would it mean to you? This is me now, moving away from the direct quote. What would it mean to you to be able to move on quickly? What would that mean to you? How often do you get stuck ruminating or rehashing or replaying those scenarios over and over and over in your head? All right, I'm going to finally move on to the fourth difference, according to my current and past clients, and that is that talk therapy tends to be surface level versus a deep dive root cause approach with the Brave Method. So working with you is different and better than talk therapy because our work together is very in-depth and gets to the core of how you are wired. I have gotten more substantial breakthroughs in understanding of how I'm wired and why I work this way, and it's a lot deeper than talk therapy can be and so much more actionable. And this particular client told me that she found that everything that she was learning was useful in her professional and personal relationships. And then finally, the last one for me, a measure of success is how quickly I am brought to tears in our sessions, often within the first 5 minutes. I count this as a win because it means that I feel safe and that I get right into what's difficult and important, wasting little time, which is really important to me. And so if you're a high achiever and you have resonated with everything that I've been sharing on the podcast, then you probably also resonate with not wanting to waste time and to make real substantial progress. If you resonate with what you heard today, on this episode, or, just was like, wow, actually this really feels true for me too. This is my experience. Then please do not hesitate to reach out on Instagram or through email. And if you're resonating with the episodes in general, can I ask you a favor? Can you take 2 minutes to write a quick review? The platforms for podcasts really use the reviews to know should they push the podcast to anybody else. So it would be really helpful if you could write a review. And I thank you in advance and really appreciate you. I will see you next Tuesday.